tradition now on this channel where we try to predict the NFL playoffs, and this is, of course, the 2025 NFL playoffs, and we're going to get started right away. We're going to work our way from the bottom-ranked team to the top. So, in this first matchup, we have the second-seeded Buffalo Bills versus the seventh-seeded Broncos, and I'm going to take the Bills in this matchup. While I do think the Denver defense is better, I think in every other way the Bills are the better team, better coach, better quarterback, better run game, possibly better receivers. That might be close there, but I think the Bills have definitely proven themselves to be a threat in the AFC. So, I am taking the Bills. This next game is the third-seeded Ravens versus the sixth-seeded Steelers. Sixth-seeded Steelers. Try saying that 3 times fast. It's very fun to say. I can't lie, but the Steelers and Ravens is obviously a divisional game. Both these teams are in the NFC North, or not the NFC North, sorry, the AFC North. So they play each other twice a year, every year. They're very familiar with each other, and divisional games can get very, very weird. And because of that reason, I am actually going to take the Steelers to beat the Ravens by like a field goal or something. Just because I think the game's going to get really weird, and I think the Steelers' defense is better. And the Ravens also are going to be playing without their number one wide receiver in Zay Flowers. So, goodness, excuse me. The Ravens are without their number one wide receiver in Zay Flowers, so I think that's going to be very important to them, not being able to have that consistent threat over the year. I think that is going to change the dynamic of this game a lot, and I think the Steelers will not prioritize, but what am I trying to say there? Capitalize. That's the word. I think the Steelers will capitalize off of some bad luck for the Ravens right now. In our middle seed, we have the 4-seeded Texans and the 5th-seeded Chargers. I'm actually going to take the Chargers in this one because I think they're the better team in every aspect. I like CJ Stroud, and I love Nico Collins, but I think as it stands right now, I think the Chargers are better coached. I think they have a better run game. I think they have a better quarterback, and I think they have a significantly better defense, so I think the Chargers are my pick, and I feel very confident in them. I think they're a rising star in the league. They might be a year away from being true contenders, but I think the Chargers are definitely a team to watch out for, so much so, in fact, that I'm actually going to pick them again against the Buffalo Bills. While I do love Josh Allen, I think that that team isn't really complete. I think defensively they've got a lot of injuries and a lot of question marks, and I think a team like the Chargers can really take advantage of that in ways that the Broncos I don't think can. So I think the Chargers can beat the Bills, and then in our Christmas Day rematch up here, I'm going to take the Chiefs. I don't think there's a better team in the league right now than the Chiefs. I know some people might put the Lions in that conversation and the Eagles in that conversation, but I really, really don't think there's a better team than the Chiefs right now. So I am going to pick them over the Chargers. While it is, a divisional game, obviously, and those can get weird, I just think the Chiefs are playing their best football of the year, as they always do at the end. And there were a lot of people earlier this year when the Chiefs were starting slow and winning games close that were like, I don't know about the Chiefs, but I think that was rather preemptive and perhaps a little celebratory far too early to say that the Chiefs weren't looking like themselves, because at the early part of the season they were like 5-1 and they were playing the worst football of the year, and now I think they're playing the best football of their year. So I think it's very hard to say that anyone out of the Chiefs, or anyone other than the Chiefs, is going to come out of the AFC. So let's switch gears now to NFC. And we're starting, of course, down here at the bottom between the 7-seeded Packers and the 2-seeded Eagles. And much like the Bills and Broncos game, I think there's a very clear winner here, and I think it is the Eagles. I think the Eagles match up very, very well with a lot of the teams in this bracket, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do go as far as I think they're going to go. But obviously, I don't want to spoil anything. But I think the biggest factor, and not to harp on run game and defense again, but the Packers have been struggling lately very, very badly with getting pressure on quarterbacks and getting sacks, and their pass rush has just been nearly non-existent, and especially against that Eagles O-line, I don't see them finding much success. So the Eagles are my pick, and I feel very confident. In fact, this I think is my most confident pick of this entire bracket, is that the Eagles will beat the Packers. Second, we have the 6th-seeded Washington Commanders against the 3rd-seeded Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I know a lot of people were wondering how on earth this is the Sunday night game for the wild card round. And I personally believe this will be the best game of the week. I think these are two very exciting, young-ish teams that are, I don't think, quite true contenders yet, but maybe in a year, I think they could be very dangerous. Obviously, you've got the rookie sensation in Washington in Jaden Daniels, and the Buccaneers have their comeback man of the century in Baker Mayfield, and I think this is just going to be a very exciting game. I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game, and at the end of the day, Baker has been to the playoffs before, so I think I am going to take the Buccaneers for this matchup, but I think this is probably my biggest 50-50 matchup between the Bucs and Commanders. So this I think could go either way, but right now I'm feeling Buccaneers. Finally, in the NFC wildcard, we have the 5th-seeded Minnesota Vikings versus the 4th-seeded Los Angeles Rams, and I am going to take the Vikings in this matchup, despite the fact that they lost to the Rams earlier this year. This is still a 14-win team, and they have won games very convincingly over the course of the year. So I think last week was just a bad game. I don't think they're a bad team because they failed to execute. Really, they were driving down the field with relative ease in a lot of their opening plays, and they just didn't capitalize on it. They got 2 turnovers, didn't capitalize on it, and that can happen sometimes. So I think this is still a very good team. I think they're still maybe a year away from truly competing, but I don't think this is a one-and-done team like a lot of people seem to. But we'll return to them in a moment. Moving back now to the divisional game down here with the Eagles and Buccaneers. I'm going to take the Eagles again. I think they're better than the Buccaneers in every way. I feel bad for Baker because I think, he's worked really hard, and I was a huge believer of him coming out of his draft class, and I want to see him do well and make a deep playoff push one of these days. But I think the Eagles are just a better team in every aspect that matters, and I don't think the Buccaneers have anything to really answer with. So, Eagles are my pick. Back to Vikings, Lions. This is another divisional matchup, and these can get really weird. In the first game, in week 7 or whatever it was, the Vikings lost by 2, and very easily could have won that game. Obviously, second matchup in week 18, something goes wrong with Sam Darnold. Not that I think Sam Darnold is exceptional or anything, but that was just a really weird game by the Vikings where, for whatever reason, they could run the ball at ease, they could throw the ball at ease, they could march right down the field, and then the second they sniff that end zone, everything goes to hell. So very weird game. I think this will be a much closer matchup than a lot of people might think. And I think the Vikings do have a chance to maybe beat the Lions, but for the time being, I don't see it happening, so I'm going to take the Lions. Now, in our championship game between the Lions and the Eagles, I think these are probably the two best rosters in the NFC. And then, if I want to be pedantic about it, I'd maybe say the Rams were third and the Vikings fourth or something like that. But I think these are the two best rosters in the NFC. So I think these are both teams that can compete potentially with the Chiefs for a Super Bowl. But I don't think they can realistically beat them. And it's just a matter of who do I like between them more. And I think, personally, I prefer the Eagles, just mostly because they're healthier, and they have more playoff experience than the Lions. Obviously, Jared Goff has been to a Super Bowl before, but more people in the Eagles have been in these scenarios for longer, so I do like the Eagles in this. Especially because the Lions' secondary is so completely gashed that I think they're just gonna, they're gonna do what they've been doing for the last 6 weeks of the year, where they run the ball on you a lot, and then the second you get tired out, they're throwing it to Devonta Smith or A.J. Brown, and suddenly they both have 150-yard games without you even realizing it. So I think the Eagles are a nightmare matchup for the Lions. Especially because they're built very similarly, right? They follow a very similar philosophy of building the trenches first and then working your way outwards. So I do like the Eagles in that regard because they've been doing it longer. So when we get to the Super Bowl, it is Eagles-Chiefs, which I think is quite possibly the worst matchup that we could get. But I think it's the most realistic matchup, and that's what this bracket is for. There's like no narratives here other than, I guess revenge for the Eagles losing 2-3 years ago, whatever it was. But I just find it very uninteresting, The Eagles, whoop-de-doo, the Chiefs, whoop-de-doo. Not to be overly negative or whatnot, but I love a good narrative. I would love to see like the Chargers versus the Lions or the Bills versus the Vikings or something, but I think this is the most likely scenario. Chiefs, Eagles, and while it pains me to say this because I think it can be a little exhausting to see the same people win every year, which is why I don't watch baseball. I am going to take the Chiefs to 3-peat, and if they do 3-peat, I think Travis Kelce will retire, but I do think the Chiefs will 3-peat because I do think they are the best team in the NFL. I don't think anyone else is necessarily close. I think the Eagles and Lions, maybe Bills, are like that second tier, but the Chiefs are definitely in a tier all by themselves, and I don't think you can discount them. I don't think you can count out Patrick Mahomes at any point. I don't think you can count out Andy Reid at any point, and I think this is going to be our first ever 3-peat. So I have picked the Chiefs for Super Bowl champion, and we have a tiebreaker scenario here where how many total points will be scored in the 24-25 NFL playoffs between 13 games. Now, I think the average points scored in an NFL game is around 27, so that equates to something like 340 something, I think. I don't know, I was never the greatest at math, so I'm just gonna hedge my bets and say like 346. And of course, the tiebreaker here, whenever you see a tiebreaker on brackets like this, your best bet is to just go dead average. you don't want to go too crazy with it, and that's how I do my March Madness every year as well with the tiebreakers. And if you would like to watch me fill out a March Madness bracket when the time comes, please do let me know. I'd be happy to do it. So I think that's gonna do it for this video. Chiefs, Eagles, Super Bowl, Chiefs, Super Bowl champion. Those are the official Eric Barlow picks. And I'm going to hit submit bracket and completely forget that I ever entered whatever this is. So I